welcome to the stage Ayman El-Hajjar, Course Leader Cybersecurity and Forensics at University of Westminster.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ayman El-Hajjar. I work at the University of Westminster in the United Kingdom. I lead the Cybersecurity and Forensic course. I'm going to be talking about smart cities and IoT. It's something that completes what Roland was talking about. It's about the pursuit to preserve our autonomy, to preserve our privacy, and to maintain our data, to secure our data. So, just a brief introduction to who we are. The University of Westminster was founded in 1838. The research in cybersecurity and forensics is mainly in cybersecurity studies, digital forensics, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. We mainly deal with data anomalies and how to look at it from artificial intelligence point of view. What we're going to be talking about today is what is a smart city challenges, vulnerabilities. We'll give few examples. You look at attack surface in terms of the different services that a smart city should be able to provide. We will show certain examples that we were able to do in the university premises, and we will look at the public trust and how public deals with smart city technologies. So, let's start first with a brief introduction of smart city definition. So the smart city is simply a collection of many different things. If you think about how it defines the common aspects to define a smart city, and there's so many definitions of smart city, are people, us as being the enabler of those services to be needed, technologies, Internet of Things, sensors, actuators, etc., and finally, data. I'm not sure if there's a way to raise it a little bit because it seems. That's fine, don't worry. Right, so if you think about cities in general without having a smart city, think about electricity infrastructure, think about health infrastructure, think about policing, CCTV cameras, think about air distribution or water distribution, gas distribution, traffic management, parking, waste management. All of those can be a smart city service. However, without having a smart city service, we have a problem with the cybersecurity in general. That's thinking about the internet as we know, the internet before the Internet of Things, the internet that involved spamming and fraud and identity theft and such as. So, if you look at the cybersecurity for smart city, our cities are already suffering and struggling. This is, for example, a heat wave in 2016. It brings the train system to a stand. East Coast power outage. Chaos. 2 inches of snow. It stops the whole city. And that's without having smart city or smart services that contain so many of the threats and vulnerabilities of what a smart city is. Burst ban. So, if you go back to this and add to all the problems that already exist and that our cities are already struggling with, if you add to this the problems of security, the problem of cybersecurity. Think about it like this. A CCTV camera being hacked. Or think about it like this. A refrigerator being hacked and start sending spam emails. Think about it as you're driving your car and then all of a sudden you have no control. Think about it as your data for your health system being compromised and all your health history is available for few cents online. Think about it like that. Your gas meter, instead of detecting that there's a leakage, it actually sends a message to start your oven while you're away. These are the threats that exist that are on top of the threats that we already have. There is devices limitation. If you put the internet as Internet 1.0, that's the internet that we know, the browsers, the internet, the websites, the emails, and then you add to that Internet of Things. You add to that devices that are 40 kilobytes to the maximum. Those devices will not be able to handle any of the protocols that exist at the moment, as it is. It will handle some magnification of it, but it will not be able to handle it as it is. Physical access. This is one challenge. For example, how many of us go up to the roof and have access to a CCTV camera in order to flash its firmware with the new updated one? How many devices we have? So the idea of smart city is to have sensors in places where it's very difficult to access. And with this, it brings the difficulty of updating them. Technology keep on evolving. Actually, the market of where smart city is in a place that is very, very far from the reality in terms of research, in terms of reliability, and in terms of security of those devices. As simple as it is. So, if you think about cybersecurity for smart cities specifically, you need to think about data. And when it comes to data, it comes to our data. It comes to everything that we're generating every day, from the moment that I'm using my bank account, to the moment that I'm using my smart car, to the moment that I'm using my smart energy to switch off my smart house. All of those are data that can be aggregated, that can be collected, and that can be used in a way that is extremely dangerous, not only because it causes identity theft or my email being hacked. It can actually cause physical damage. It is actually a physical threat. For that, if you think about it in terms of the normal attack threat, confidentiality attack, availability attack, integrity attack. However, yes, those attacks always existed. Think about them in terms of availability attack for a bank, which means a system, online banking, that goes offline. That is very damaging. But now if you think about it, about availability of a system that monitor, for example, health, elderly patients, and then all of a sudden that system is gone, and that means the people who are relying on that system to protect the health of the elderly are not able to do anything anymore because it's gone. Physical threat again. So all of those attacks already used to be available. However, if you think about users, Cloud One, Gateway, Access, things, all of those existed. Their threats are becoming a lot more dangerous. And I'm going to show you what I mean by a lot more dangerous. If you think about the vulnerabilities in the architecture, so if you divide the architecture of the Internet of Things, and this is not a standard division of the architecture. However, think about it in terms of perception layer. For example, devices are very constrained, which means we cannot really install a security measure. We cannot take any security measure on a normal Internet of Things device the way we do on a laptop or a PC or a server or an end device that is a lot more powerful. We cannot. So this is from a perception level. From an integration layer, I'm protecting a network. That networks have several computers. However, all of those computers talk the same, behave the same. All of those computers do the same thing. However, when it comes to smart cities, I have a smart meter that is talking with a smart health pacemaker, heart pacemaker, with a smart gas meter, with a traffic light, with any other smart devices. So all of those devices are completely different in their architecture, are completely different in their hardware limitations, are completely different in terms of their capabilities. This is a heterogeneous system that makes it a lot more difficult to protect. Outsourcing, that's a cloud layer. I'm not a big fan of outsourcing usually. However, all the Internet of Things devices will need a place to collect all of those devices, to aggregate all of those devices and put them somewhere. And usually that somewhere is the cloud. We need to make sure that that cloud is protected using the exact the similar measures that we have at the moment. However, our data need to be protected because now, even if it's still the same security measures, now it's holding a lot more important information that can cause physical damage. And finally, the business layer. The business layer is us as a human being. And usually we are the weakest link. No matter what you do, no matter how much you protect, if your password is 1234, then you are not protected. As simple as that. No matter what you do. So this is the weakest link, and this is the weakest link that will always stay whatever we do. So, is it time to panic? Is it time to run away? Is it time to stop developing and step back and say, hang on a second, there's something wrong. We need to protect our devices before we move on. Cybercrime is on the rise. It's not a tail. It's there. Physical safety. A lot of crimes, and I'll show you later on, a lot of crimes are happening, are actually causing physical damage. Threats to national infrastructure. Imagine in one go, a country that is in war, and all of a sudden, they have no electricity. That's a cyber war that is part of any war that exists. Imagine our city is brought to its knees because it cannot operate. Imagine, for example, there is espionage on a high level that not only spy on people, but also spies on every single aspect of what we do. Spies on what time we wake up and what time we sleep. So, we should worry in some way. However, these are examples from the media of what's really happening. Hackers access US power. Smart meters vulnerable to attacks. Hacker security, it's actually on Google, 5 steps to hack the CCTV camera. 5 minutes, that's all what it takes. Medical devices, this is where the physical threat becomes more relevant. Ransomware for medical devices. Traffic lights, where you start playing with traffic light like some kind of James Bond movie. Car that is being controlled remotely and being accessed remotely by a hacker. Someone changing, I'm sorry, I apologize for the message. Someone changing the messages on the traffic light system. Jeep being controlled. Someone was able to manage to hack the smart system of the airline, the entertainment system, and then the only way he got arrested is because he put it on Twitter. And he got arrested by that. Okay, so for example, this is an example in the States. Luckily, they changed the sensors. Those are sensors that are installed on the streets, and those sensors detect whether there's a car or there's traffic or no, and that way the traffic, the lights change. So it's not a fixed time delays between red, yellow, and green. This traffic delay depends on how much traffic. So someone sit in the middle. I'm sure you're all aware of something called man-in-the-middle attack. Someone sit in the middle between the sensor that is a device called VSD. If you go back, please. If a device called VSD 240, that was a device that was used in 40 states in the United States. And all what they need is to sniff plain text traffic, simply because they tried to put encryption, but it was slowing down the system, so we thought it's not really important, we can remove it. By removing it, they actually had a traffic light system that is unencrypted. Anyone with a very simple device can sit in the middle, spam this traffic, first of all, denial of service, bring it down, or inject traffic. So, for example, you change from red to green. All of a sudden, it can cause accidental damage. I'll give you an example that we did in our labs. I'm not sure if any one of you have heard of Mirai-bot. Mirai-bot is a ransomware that was on a massive scale, hit most of the countries. It happened somewhere in October 2016, I believe. So you expect most people, a year later, will update their systems, will upgrade their system, will patch their system to make sure that that doesn't happen again. 2017, 1 year later, exactly 1 year later, in October again, we receive an email saying there's a lot of traffic on port 23. Apparently, someone simply, rather than using port 2323 that Mirai-bot used to use, simply they changed to port 23. Exactly the same attack. There was not even one line of code changed. That attack, you can actually download it online. It's available. The result? After 1 year, you would expect systems were patched, were protected. Now we have a system, at least for this kind of line of code, is protected. So we put those devices. These are Internet of Things devices that we have at the university labs. These are devices that are very lightweight. I'm not doing any advert for them. I don't work for them. However, these are the devices we use. And we put them in test. So we got those devices that are called Valerti Azul devices. Can you go back? Sorry. We put a gateway. This gateway here is to connect those devices to the internet because we needed to have access to the internet. So we put a gateway. We connected them to the internet. We put a honeypot because I did not want to lose my job. So I did not want to have the university network goes down. So we put a honeypot just to filter the traffic to make sure that only traffic that is connected to that specific attack goes in. And we put a firewall. We open the specific port, and we run it for 6 hours. 6 hours. That's all what we ran it for. So we ran it for 6 hours. The result: there was 16 devices. 12 of those devices' passwords were compromised. Now, obviously, we did not patch those devices on purpose. Okay? So obviously, we left it unpatched. There was 12.6 gigabytes of data on 32 kilobyte smart Internet of Things device. 12.6 gigabytes of data were generated in 6 hours. That's a massive amount for those devices to be able to generate. 13 of them reported 100% CPU usage the 6 hours completely. 4 of them were mining Bitcoin. All of them were from a botnet army that was in Ukraine. Okay? The honeypot server is actually crashed 14 times, only in 6 hours. Now, I know that this is in devices that we left on purpose and patched, there's no problem. However, 2 million devices were reported to be vulnerable to Reaper botnet attack. 2 million, 1 year after the exact attack happened on the same port. That means the problem is not actually from the smart cities, it's not actually from Internet of Things, it's actually from awareness that we lack. Awareness that needs to be worked upon so that we can have a more secure system. I will quote Google CEO in 2009, Eric Schmidt: if you have something that you don't want anyone to know about, maybe you shouldn't be doing it. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing it. In reality, for Google, it means do not put it online, as simple as that. No matter what you do not put it online because then everyone will know. That's the idea. And that's something very important in relation to our smart cities because of what we said in the data it's collecting. Public trust. This gentleman here is saying smart cities to link Wi-Fi, meter reading, and police communications. And then the hell of the conspiracy theory fell on them of what's happening in reality. And that's the reality of what's happening. Shall we have a revolution? Shall we have a revolution on how we think about our security? Shall we have a revolution in terms of how we think about our data? Our data is not someone else's data, it's our data. I have the right to say whether that data need to be stored somewhere or need to be deleted whenever I want. Shall I have the right to know where my smart meter is sending my data? This is the revolution that needs to be done if smart cities will go ahead. Smart city will go ahead. The question will be whether smart city will be going ahead with our data protected. That's the main question that need to be asked. If you think about the data, it's all about the data. I don't care about the CCTV camera. I don't care about the Alertia device if it's been compromised. What I care about is the data that it's collecting. That's what I care about. So it's all about the data. The data infrastructure is what is important. A lot more penetration testing need to be done. Conventional intrusion detection no longer work. You have security analysts that still use exactly the same process that they used to use 20 years ago. Well, yes, that might do something for a normal internet infrastructure, but that will not work for smart cities. That will not work for Internet of Things. Edge network need to be protection. You protect any network you have, and then you leave the point of entry open. It's like you locked all the rooms inside, but you left the main door of your house open. You didn't do anything. And firmware need to be patched on a regular basis. Yeah, can we move on? If you think technology can solve your security problems, then you don't understand technology and you don't understand security. And I believe so. And that's because to make sure your network is secure, you need to raise awareness of security, you need to raise awareness of how important our data is, you need to raise awareness of how we deal with our data, how much we put online and how we deal with them. Thank you very much.